What's going on, guys? Fearmaky here, bringing you another video. Let's get into it. Let's roll deep and keep grinding out there, guys. Let's dive into the video. Let's go. All right, fellas. Welcome back. We have another one. Man, Freyna is so fun to play. She's an amazing mobbing and wave descendant. She's also very good at bossing. If you main Freyna, I hope you'll like this build. You're going to enjoy it. Remember, not everybody plays every descendant. Not every descendant is for everybody. Certain descendants are built for bossing. Certain descendants are built for mobbing. Freyna, I believe, is a very unique character right now. Her place, she's not going to be an insane boss killer.
Shoulder's about to be
yes,
broken.
if you build her with a glass
Right
cannon with full skill critical hit damage, skill critical hit rate, and solely focus on single player gameplay and glass cannon, yes, you can delete bosses in 10 seconds. I did not want to approach Freyna in this manner. I want to approach all of my builds, and you guys will see consistency on them across the board as I release more videos. I want a build that's good for group play, for wave, and mobbing, for all types of content. So that way you can survive, you can have fun, you can enjoy doing it.
I messed up my rotation there.
I got the shoulder.
Yeah, I don't want to focus on the glass cannon builds and the solo builds, because those builds really, they're good in the moment. They're good for the 10 seconds. But then for every content after that, especially in group play, they're not good. And I'm telling you guys, and I am hoping for this, when season 1 comes around and the content becomes harder and the field missions become harder and dungeons become harder, these glass cannon builds, including my Lepic glass cannon build, which I didn't fully invest in like I told you guys in my video, I think they're going to take a huge hit and they're going to have a really bad time doing the content, because you're going to be dead all the time and you're going to be a liability for your group. So I'm approaching all of my builds in that manner. So if you're here looking for the 8 seconds, 5-second kills, you're not going to get that from this video. You might get that from other descendants, like with Lepic, like with Enzo, even Viessa, you know, but that's just the nature of the build. It just flows that way. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the video, enjoy the build. I really like Freyna a lot. We're going to focus on neurotoxin synthesis for her bossing build, and for the wave build, we're going to focus on contagion. There is a lot of nuances and stuff to learn with Freyna, and I by no means claim to know every single little piece of her. But I'm going to do my best to explain to you guys what I've learned during my testing, and also some feedback from the community and from some players who definitely play Freyna to the fullest. And if I missed anything about Freyna and about her abilities, please leave it down in the comments below so we can learn together and everybody can improvise. But this will be my version of the build. It's safe, it's comfortable, and the wave build is absolutely insane. You just rain poison down on all of the mobs. There was instances where I would drop a poison puddle on one camp, on multiple camps, and go over to a third camp, and the poison ticks and the zero trauma would still be spreading and dotting the targets 2 camps prior. Absolutely crazy how she feels. I'll leave you guys here with the rest of the showcase so you guys can see how she does on Gluttony, how she did on Devourer, and I have a couple of wave clips. I like to showcase first what the character can do when she's about before I get into the builds. And I always like seeing, when I watch also YouTube and other videos on other descendants, I like to see the capability of the character first and see what it can do and how fun it looks, right, before we dive into the meat, before we dive into the build. But anyways, I hope you guys really enjoy this guide, and yeah, enjoy the showcase, and I'll see you guys in the video.
Going for a shoulder. Got in.
Oh, he needs to be cold. This is nuts. All right, fellas, welcome to the guide. Listen, before we get into my build, my guide, I just like to point out that if you do want to build Freyna into a monster to kill bosses quick in 8 to 10 seconds and be a glass cannon, you can certainly do so. I didn't go that route, but what you want is a weapon with firing Fiesta on it, so that way when you reload, you don't consume your ammo from your unique weapon, your ultimate. And you also want the weapon to have rounds per magazine. You can see in the sniper rifle, it's rolled on there, rounds per magazine equipped. And in addition to that, obviously your mods, you want expanded weapon charge and firing rate. So increase the weapon magazine size, including with firing Fiesta, so it doesn't consume your ammo, and have rounds per magazine rolled on your weapon. Then you can fire your ultimate for an extended period of time and do insane damage to the boss. And obviously your skill, all your mods are going to have skill critical hit rate and skill critical hit damage in order for you to pull that off. I did not want to go down that route because she would be extremely glass cannon. But anyways, that's something you guys can do if you want to go that way. So with our build, as usual, this is my Enduring Legacy. When I kill bosses, I use this loadout. I'm not going to get into the Enduring Legacy. There is a Lepic Enduring Legacy build that I did. You guys can go watch that video and get into it. But definitely, this is the setup that I use, and Sharp Shot Precision Shot does help me release her unique weapon shots as fast as possible as well. There is an interaction there with it. Okay. Let's get to the reactor first. On the reactor for Boston, let me equip Enduring Legacy so that way the reactor looks better. There it is. We got 30,000 poison damage and tech damage there. So I'm using the Enduring Legacy Mountain for this reactor, and I have tech skill and toxic skill for Boston and doing damage. You can use skill critical hit damage and damage to Colossus. I don't like to make it a niche build just for bosses like that, so I always favor the element of the class over the Boston skill critical damage. But you guys can do, you know, what you like to do. I always like to favor this because I think skills overall throughout all the content that you do in Boston, etc. I think the focusing on the skill power boost ratio that the character has, in this case with Freyna, Toxic and Tech, I think is more beneficial. Anyways, you want a Toxic Mechanics Reactor for her. And I'm also using the Slayer set, MP Recovery out of combat. I did change my Slayer auxiliary power, as you can see. This one rolled slightly less MP Recovery out of combat, but because I needed the health on Freyna. In testing her and doing content in Boston, she was very fragile, I guess is the way I would put it. So I wanted to build her a tank here with more survivability. So make sure that your auxiliary power and Slayer set has max HP rolled on it, including MP recovery out of combat, so you don't have to wait so long to get mana. If you don't get lucky with the MP recovery out of combat, that's fine. You can run over, you know, mana orbs and pick them up. For the sensor, I'm using the Slayer sensor for the 2-piece bonus on the general rounds capacity for the Enduring Legacy, but I have max MP and shield recovery out of combat. For the memory, I got defense up and MP recovery modifier. And for the processor, I got max HP, obviously as inherent roll, max shield, and toxin resistance maxed out. The main reason why we're using Slayer set with the skill power modifier, I think it's one of the best set pieces for skill damage in the game, including it gives you general rounds capacity and rounds per magazine, which benefits Freyna's ultimate as well, not only the Enduring Legacy. So it's a win-win all the way around. For the Descendant modules, for Boston, we are focusing on neurotoxin synthesis. So the description in this mod, maybe it's just how I interpret it, is by no means accurate at all. And the reason why I say that is, let's read it. The effect of room 0 trauma has been modified as follows. Does not spread poison, but adds attack reduction and weaken regeneration. So if you go here, the attack decrease is 10% damage reduction, and the outgoing recovery, which is healing the boss gets, is 50%. But what it doesn't tell you, which I think is a huge flaw on the devs, is that it increases your skill power modifier significantly. So let me remove it. Right now we're at 637% skill power on the continuous damage, dot damage from 0 trauma. And if I remove neurotoxin and press save, we go down to 556. You see that? It increases your skill power, and the module does not explain that. It does not say that, which is crazy to me. But anyways, yeah, so that's the major part about this module. You definitely want this on. It buffs your Venom Trauma, it buffs your Plague Armor, it buffs your Putrid Venom dots on the ground, and it also buffs your Venom Baptism. All your dots get increased damage. The reason why we have extremely high skill power, I'll go over the modules with you. So I chose increased HP over Battle of Stamina this time around because, like I said, she felt a little fragile, so I wanted to give her more health. And missing out on the 8.8% duration didn't make much of a difference because it would not push me to 10 seconds. If it did, then I would definitely put on Battle of Stamina, so that way we get an extra tick from her Room Zero trauma. You can also roll that on your Reactor and get the extra tick, but I didn't think it was worth the extra tick compared to the damage loss from having Tech and Toxic on there, for Boston at least. But definitely go increased HP, so you're not a glass cannon. I went multi-talented, and the reason why is when using a Tech active skill, and all of Freyna's skills are active, Tech skills, increases her skill range and skill power modifier by 15%. So Freyna being a dot class, anything that a modifier on her skill power that's below 100% skill power, modifiers will give you a lot more damage on those skills as opposed to damage skills that has over 100 or 200% skill power. So modifiers definitely benefit Freyna way more than flat skill power, just so you guys know. All right, so definitely favor that. But multi-talented, so right now we're at 637% continuous damage on Room Zero trauma. When I pop my ultimate on any ability, you get sophistication for multi-talented, and now our damage goes to 652.7%. This allows us to get like almost 1,000,000 crit dot tick damage on targets, which is absolutely insane. So definitely go multi-talented. You can swap this slot out for MP conversion as well for increased cooldown reduction if you wanted to, but I choose multi-talented for the damage. I'm going skill duration to increase the dot ticks. I'm going spare and shield. You notice how I have not upgraded my spare and shield here. I'm just using a base, mainly for the skill power multiplier, 8.1%, which definitely increases your damage. And you also get the nice 22% defense increase. It's not 99% defense, but it's what fit in the build for me, and it works. The other 70% is not going to make much of a difference. You should be avoiding mechanics, guys. I'm definitely using front lines for the skill critical hit damage and skill critical hit rate, so she feels more consistent. And this right here is by far your most important mod out of all the mods on Freyna. Is the skill power modifier by 84%. That's what allows us to get up to 637% skill power on her dots. So make sure you use this. There is no better mod on her than this mod for her dot damage. Skill concentration, you definitely want this. This would allow your dots to tick for extremely high damage, double damage, and anytime you get, I know she has a very low crit chance, etc., but any double damage is double damage, guys. There's no, denying that. So definitely go for this if you want to do big damage. Emergency measures, again, for the massive skill critical hit rate and critical hit damage. And toxic specialist for the 81% toxic skill power, and MP accelerant for the additional MP and skill duration to keep us at the 9 seconds on the duration on our dots. So all of these stats combined, and I'm using media maneuvering as usual because you can use any mobility module that you'd like, that you prefer. Just make sure you slot it in to get the additional 5 module capacity on your character. But what this gives us is 57% skill duration, 22% defense, 8.1% skill power, 81.2% toxic skill power, 92.3% skill critical hit rate, 207.7% skill critical hit damage, 218.5% max HP, 84.5% skill power modifier, and we have a negative 21% max MP. Not a big deal though when we're doing our mobbing build. So this is the boss build. Let's go over some technical stuff on the dummy before we get into the wave build. So what this does, remember multi-talented, you pop, you get sophistication, you shoot the target. We're doing 131, there it is, 907,000 ticks, 226,000 ticks, another 907,000 tick. The damage is absolutely insane. And that's the moment you use any ability, you get sophistication from multi-talented. All right, so that's how that works. The one key thing about DPSing with Freyna is you heard it on the gluttony video as I was talking. I'm like, oh, I messed up my rotation. The one major thing, and I give credit to the community. I did not figure this out on my own, for full transparency. But apparently, if you cast your 1, oh, yikes. I'll keep that in the video. You guys can have a laugh. Anyways, if you cast your 1, you're doing 78,000 tick damage. Now, if you cast your ultimate on top of that, your ultimate tick damage does not apply, the 226,000, you see? That's because room 0 trauma is the same dot. Your number 1 venom trauma applies room 0 trauma as a dot. Your ultimate also applies room 0 trauma as a dot. Took me a while to figure this out and try to understand, like, why is it doing that? So Freyna in general has 3 dots. She has room 0 trauma, she has her venom soaked, and she has poison. Those are the 3 debuffs. Again, it took me not a while, but I'm like, why can't it just make this stuff simple? You know, make this is the dot damage debuff, dot damage debuff. But anyways, venom soaked is a debuff, poison is a debuff, and room 0 trauma is a debuff. Those are the 3 dots. And you can see when I'm attacking the target here, I'll apply the ultimate first, and that puts the room 0 trauma 226,000 dot. All right, then I drop my swamp, and then you can see she has 3 the mob has 3 debuffs there: room 0 trauma, the poison, venom soaked, and poison. Those are the 3 debuffs she has. But to get back into the priority, when you start DPSing the boss, you always want to pop your ultimate first, fire 1 shot into it at least, to make sure room 0 trauma is applied from your ultimate. That way it snapshots the highest damage, the 652% skill power modifier from the dot damage, and that dot will supersede, take precedence over the venom trauma dot. You don't even have to cast or need to cast venom trauma. So your rotation on the boss is your ultimate and puddle, and that is it. Ultimate, puddle, and then you unleash your gun. Once all your bullets are done, we'll go through the rotation. Then you do your venom trauma to maintain the buff on there again, and then you unleash your gun, whatever gun that you want to use. It's your choice. All right, there is a build later that I'll be working on much later with Secret Garden, where any tech ability used will proc the pest control. I don't have my Secret Garden buffed up, and that will give you a lot more skill power for her dot damage. I don't know how it will flow, how it will feel. With the tactical rifle change in the game now, it might feel better. But obviously you have to invest a lot of modules and sockets into the tactical rifle, and you need to catalyst it, etc., and upgrade it 4 times. I don't want to go deep into just the Secret Garden and Freyna with that, but that's something if you guys wanted to do, and you're a Freyna main, and that's all you want to play, then yeah, I would probably recommend you up in Secret Garden to full, and you know, seeing how pest control works. There's a lot better guns out there that'll give you consistent farming and boss killing. So, but if you main Freyna and that's all you want to focus on, then you can certainly use Secret Garden. It'll synergize well with her skills. Just remember one thing though, pest control, just like with Lepic, will not work with her ultimate weapon. So if you have pest control active and you pop your unique weapon, it's going to remove that buff. It's only going to work with your 1 and 3 skills. Well, in my case, you my 4 and 0. That's really all it's going to benefit the dot from. You can, you know, I guess after your unique weapon buff drops, or it's about to drop, you fire the last bullet, and then, you know, you're back into your pest control gun, then that dot might get snapshotted. But it's too niche of a gameplay style, and right now I don't think the game warrants that. But if you want to go down that road, it's up to you guys. But anyways, that's the rotation, that's the build, that's the dot damage. That's how she operates. And your 2 or my 7 is just a defense mechanism to give you an additional 50% defense increase. All right, and obviously it applies a debuff to the target because of the neurotoxin synthesis mod when they're poisoned, when they have room 0 trauma on them. Anyways, let's get into the wave build. So for the wave build, I swap out my Reactor, and I put on skill duration up and toxic skill power. It's still with the Enduring Legacy mounting condition because I have a cracked out Enduring Legacy. So I put that on, and then I swap to the wave build. And what this does is gives our Putrid Venom, this is the #1 skill that I cast across doing waves and mobbing. And this will last 19 seconds on the ground. And you see with the 6.4 second cooldown, we can literally cast Putrid Venom Swamp 3 times on the ground before the first debuff expires. It actually lasts 23.2 seconds, I'm sorry. The Venom Soak lasts 19 seconds and the poison damage lasts 19 seconds. But the debuff stays on the ground for 23 seconds. You can almost cast it 4 times before the first cast expires. So this is what I use for waves and for builds. This right here will allow you to drop a poison puddle in multiple camps, and just room 0 trauma keeps exploding and applying poison to everything, and you don't even have to be at that location. I did multiple waves with friends, and I'm like, you know, we finished the wave in the map. It goes, my poison's still ticking. It goes, yeah, it just keeps spreading. It never runs out. It's just crazy. But anyways, let's focus on the mods. Contagion is what makes the wave build. When an enemy inflicted with room 0 trauma is killed, there is a contagion of poison surrounding it. What this does, it literally again, I think the mod is missing the burst damage mechanic on there, because when it goes out, when an enemy dies and room 0 trauma is applied to a target, it's not just a dot damage. There is a burst damage that initially goes out that deals massive poison damage and applies room 0 trauma, the continuous dot damage again to the target. And the targets most of the times won't even live the explosion of the room 0 trauma. It just, target dies, it explodes, deals a massive poison burst damage, and then reapplies a room 0 trauma dot and keeps ticking damage. If anybody has experienced this like me, please let me know in the comments below. But I think there's a missing tooltip here. There's a lack of information with this mod. But I definitely, you can look at the video and the builds. There's definitely a massive poison explosion that goes out and deals damage and then applies the dot. And it's sad that it's missing from any of the descriptions of the mods. Maybe I'm missing it or overlooking it. But there's definitely a massive interaction there with that, which I think is huge. So this mod amplifies all of your abilities, your 1, your 2, and your 3. So when a target dies that's poisoned, it reapplies room 0 trauma dot damage poison to the targets. Absolutely insane. And Putrid Venom is like by far the #1 skill for waving and doing mobs. For this build, I chose Battle of Stamina for the increased duration, which gives us that insane 23.2 second damage interval duration. I chose MP Conversion for the skill cooldown reduction. I chose Skill Extension for the skill duration. Focus on Toxic for the skill power modifier, or Toxic skill power and skill cooldown reduction. Focus on Tech for the skill cooldown. And you might ask, well, why isn't your focus on Tech fully upgraded? This, by far, this combination together gave me the most damage with what I could fit in my module slot. I think I'm like 99%, whatever it is. Toxic and Tech skill power combined. But anyways, it's mainly for the skill cooldown reduction on there. I chose MP Collector. I never really liked this mod much on Lepic and other classes, but with Freyna, because her dots lasting 23 seconds on the ground and just keep spreading and killing targets and exploding, I think she's by far one of the characters that benefits the most from MP Collector. So definitely make sure you have this on if you're going to be doing waves and mobbing. There are times you can just infinitely spam your skills and never run out of mana on waves, because MP Collector just keeps proccing constantly with how fast she's killing targets. Anyways, also went with Nimble Fingers for the skill cooldown reduction, Emergency Measures for some damage, skill critical hit rate and skill critical hit damage, Skill Expansion for the effect range, 92%. And I swapped this up between the maps. So I use Maximize Range. It's on the... So I'll use Maximize Range or Maximize Duration. So the beauty with the build is you can swap these out. If you want to have 186.7% range, you can use Maximize Range, which will make your Putrid Puddle on the ground insane. But then you go down to 18 seconds as opposed to 23. Some of the waves, this is better. Like I think on Steroland, this would be better because the waves there, the camps are smaller, so you definitely want to favor range, I would say. But some of the other waves where the mobs are spread out everywhere, you want to focus on duration. But the build is set up that you can choose whatever one you want. You know, you can swap these in and out. But duration, you know, gives you a huge time on your dots. But you can do whatever you want to do there. In addition to that, I did leave out this mod slot. You can see here this mod slot is blank. So you can fit in any module you want here as well with this build. If you want to focus heavily on boss damage, you can mod it with a skill critical hit rate and then up your spear and shield all the way. The choice is yours. This is what I chose to do so I can, you know, mess with the build later and with additional mods when I try to do different things in the future. But this is the wave build, guys, that I use, and I hope you guys enjoy it. She's extremely fun to play. I think one of the best wave clears. When her dots start spreading and going, it's just a chain reaction and domino effect, and it looks beautiful. It's like popcorn popping everywhere. It's just absolutely insane. I'll leave you guys with additional wave clip video builds at the end here so you guys can see how strong she is on some of the maps. But I hope you guys enjoyed the build. I think I covered everything. I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. I talked about her 3 dots, her contagion, how you want to apply your ultimate dot first, your room 0 trauma from your ultimate weapon first as opposed to your number 1 skill, so snapshots that damage. One thing I did forget to mention is the contagion links. What contagion links does is her passive increases toxic skill power by the number of nearby enemies inflicted with poison. Keep in mind it says poison. And the max stacks is 15, and that increases toxic skill power increase by 1.2% per stack. So that's a total of 18% toxic skill power increase. This synergizes extremely well with Putrid Venom, which is the puddle. You see how it applies poison debuff at the very last skill there in the last 19.4 seconds. So technically we can have 3 puddles on the ground all reapplying poison before the first puddle, before the first toxic swamp on the ground expires. So this synergizes really well for doing the waves, and your damage just amplifies with the more targets dots. Obviously you can have a maximum of 15 only, so it's not going to go to infinity, don't get it mistaken, but it's still a huge jump in damage. 18%, it's like another Slayer set technically that you have on you. So it's really strong. But that is the last bit I think that I covered with Freyna. If I forgot anything, please let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I think that is it. Let me know if you guys would like to see additional content from me. For the wave build, it's the same. I use auxiliary, I use the Slayer set. Nothing changes there. Like I said, she's pretty squishy, and even in some waves, if you don't have health, you're gonna die. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the build. I hope you guys enjoyed the guide, and I'll see you guys on the next class. Let me know in the comments below what other classes you guys play, what other builds you like to see. Let me know if you like the way I build my characters, or if a majority of you guys are preferring the glass cannon builds, or if you're more comfortable with the all-arounder builds. Anyway, guys, take care of yourselves. Keep grinding out there. Please don't forget to leave a comment. Hit the like button. It helps me out a lot. And if my content helped you in any way, and if you learned something, please hit the subscribe button. It helps me. You guys take care of yourselves. Keep grinding out there and roll deep. Woo!